sometimes when you say things out loud, it kind of puts things into perspective, into a different light. Wanting to belong, not feeling belonging, wanting to be heard, and all these things stem from somewhere. It's crazy to think that I've also been kind of stopping myself from growing because of the adversities. It weighed me down and it never really got better until I got better, until I refocused my energy and really realized why I wasn't growing, why I wasn't moving forward, because I was letting the past play a huge part in my present until I really realized to really sit down and look at myself and what I really wanted and kind of dissect everything from my life. I got a lot of answers doing that, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without being sober. And I've kind of made that decision for myself to not only change the people around me, but change how people see me and change how people treat me. And I get to create these boundaries for myself. And you do too. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to another episode of Life, Sober, and Shit. All right, all right, all right. There's a lot of shit going on, okay? Literally so much shit going on. Um, but firstly, I just want to say hello. Welcome. If you haven't been here before, my name is Michael. I'm your host, and I will be talking, and I just talk about pretty much anything and kind of life experiences and emotions, feelings, thoughts, revelations that I've had in my life, sober or California sober, let's to add. Okay. But anyway, welcome. This is kind of like where it happens. I'm a really big advocate for mental health, self-growth, personal development, whatever you want to call it. It's all here. Okay. But anyway, so today I kind of want to jump on because I've been reminded a little bit about so give you a background story because I was kind of going through some changes in my life that I didn't really know how to navigate. And if you haven't listened to my previous episode, it's in regards to loneliness and belonging and acceptance and being seen and being heard and whatnot. So if you haven't listened to that, go ahead and listen to that, okay? But I wanted to jump on here because I had a revelation or like a thought of kind of reasoning as to why I was feeling the things that I was feeling. And honestly, I dig back and having conversations with the therapist, and I was saying things out loud that I was like, wow, like why sometimes when you say things out loud, it kind of puts things into perspective, into a different light. Um, and one of those things was why the reason I am the way that I am, okay? And I know that's a whole handful of a lot of shit, okay? Because I'm a lot of things, okay? But the person that I've become, wanting to belong, not feeling belonging, wanting to be heard, and all these things stem from somewhere. And it's my past. And where I come from, I'm going to give you a little bit of like a little of a history of kind of like who I am and where I come from and the reasons why I am the way that I am and I speak the way that I speak or I handle things the way that I handle things. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory, I guess, I suppose, of my life. You back kind of like a childhood history of mine. But it's like a whole identity crisis thing, but I talked about this in my previous episodes about identity and who you are and what you are and all these things, but I wanted to bring it back because there are so many things that were coming up over and over again in relation to my relationship with my mother. Okay, so we don't have a very fond relationship. I don't remember very many things that were fond in our relationship. But who knows? I would never know the real story behind everything. I've only known what I've been told, which is my mother had worked so hard to get us over here and make sure to take care of us and blah blah and all that family history and all that stuff. That's all I know. Nothing beyond that, okay? But the thing is, there has been some resurfacing of some traumas and some feelings and emotions that I couldn't quite explain, triggering things, obviously, in regards to my relationship with my mother. So if you don't have a very good relationship with your mother, like this episode's probably for you. And to be honest, I wish that I had a better relationship. Now that I'm older, I wish that I had a better relationship and that I was able to communicate, but there are so many things that are triggering me in a sense where I can't really move forward. Okay. Okay. I'm like getting sidetracked so hard right now, but let me just take you back. Okay. So we're going back to childhood where there wasn't very many parents or parental guidance or influence in my life growing up. Like I didn't have a dad growing up. I didn't really have my mom growing up. Like I had my mom, of course, but my mom was never around. Like she was never really present. It was mostly over the phone I could remember, but I moved to Canada um with my mom, okay, and her husband, which is my dad, my stepdad, my white dad, but not my biological dad. Never knew my biological dad, but that explains a lot of my insecurities also with like identity and who I am and all that stuff. But having a relationship with my mom is so much harder now that I've created like boundaries for myself and kind of healed a lot of things from my childhood and having to accept who I am. I've had a disconnection with my mom for quite some time. And, she hasn't really been a part of my life for a very long time. And I've had to kind of grow up and had to grow kind of on my own and kind of figure things out on my own. And then it's not an easy place. And I'm not saying I'm the only one that has to do that, but I'm telling you, it does something to somebody, like your personality, your being, your habits, and it just correlates, it all correlates back to how I grew up. Anyway, so there has been some reoccurring kind of, resurfaced of traumas with my mother and triggering things because she has recently like you reached out and connected and trying to connect, but she made it known that I cannot talk about the past. I cannot talk about, what's happened with me and her life. I can't ask questions about her life. And that goes to say with like everything. And for me, that's just not how I communicate. That is not how I function. That is not how I've learned that to move forward. The way of moving forward for myself is really to release all of that, a lot of the history, ask all the questions that I need to ask, and in order to move forward, just kind of learn a little bit more. But if I'm not able to do that, you guys, I'm not doing it. Okay. And that's kind of just the boundary that I've kind of set myself to. Um, and it kind of sucks. It really does hurt because you're never going to get that closure that you really need because you want to have closure of who you are and who your mom is and where you really come from. Like I understand I come from the Philippines. I was born in the Philippines and I was doing all these things and blah blah blah, all this life. But really, who is my mom, right? Who is this person that birthed me? And to this day, I still do not know. And that is not an easy way to kind of navigate your life throughout. Like, it's just not. And I don't think she'll ever understand where I come from because she has two very loving parents, you know. That really love her till the very end, like, and which are my grandparents. And, there are some family history in there, but no one's perfect. I get it. But she had very loving parents. And I don't think she understands where I come from because I didn't really have her, nor did I ever even know about my father. I didn't have this history. I didn't have any of that stuff. So what I see is my parents and like people guiding me from my recollection is my grandparents. My grandparents really raised me and kind of shaped me in so many ways of who I am today. And I'm just being completely honest. I'm not saying that my mother is not my mother. She didn't do the best that she can. She did, in her own way, but it wasn't enough for me to need and to feel wanted and to feel like I belonged and to feel like I knew who I was. And it wasn't enough, right? Even though she did the best that she could, it wasn't enough for me as a child to connect and to feel loved and to feel accepted. So imagine like navigating life and your whole childhood like that. It's not easy. It's not an easy place to be because you I always lived like not knowing really who I was and so not really having a real identity and where I come from and who I am. And so navigating life like that, it was very difficult. So I always felt not belonging and I've always kind of search for belonging. And that's why now that I'm in my 30s, it's like I have to go back. I literally have to go back and figure out who this person is, which I'm doing right now. And I'm actively trying to improve each day. And, you know, but it kind of shows me why I am the way that I am, why that I'm curious about the things that I'm curious about who I am and what I want to be, and what I really want to have an impact on this community and finding my community. And it's really important to have those. But growing up, I never really understood why I felt the way that I felt. And, now that I'm older, it's easier for me to kind of look back and be like, okay, this is why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. I was doing the things I was doing, like acting up and acting out, being, I was just lost, misguided, um, but I'm getting sidetracked again, okay? But this whole purpose was literally to talk about people that never really felt belonging and having to grow up on their own, really, and kind of guiding yourself through life and navigating through your life on your own. It's like it's not the best and it's not really the easiest thing to do. But and just this is kind of just a reminder, I guess, to kind of reach out and keep the people in your lives that are really just accepting and just love you for who you are. Friends, it could go for friends, family, like, just anybody that can really hear you. It is so important to be heard and seen. And so from my experience of having a kind of tumultuous like background of childhood history, and I've talked about like, how you can look at your childhood in two different perspectives and two different light. And it's kind of your choice on how to look at them and how you want to look at them and how you want to see them, because it can really change the version of you, but it can also change like the present, right? It kind of releases resentment and releases all these things like positive, more positive energy, really. But anyway, now that I'm like in my 30s, there's just things I cannot stand for because of the boundaries that I've set for myself. So, from my personal experience, my mother doesn't really want to communicate or talk about the past and talk about, our lives. And for me, that's really important for my personal growth. And that's for anybody, I think. And it's a part of like connection. And I'm older. The older that I get, the more I can understand how my time is so valuable, and how I spend my time and who I spend my time with is so valuable. And I didn't realize this before, but now it's so important to me to create these healthy like boundaries for myself, because you know it's because when somebody kind of devalues you, or it kind of pushes their perspective and pushes their own opinion on you in a negative way, it's just kind of draining, honestly. Like, it's so draining. Why the hell would you want to waste your damn time with people that don't support you and don't care about you or don't care about your personal growth, or have a sense of being and a sense of awareness for themselves? You don't want to do that, you guys, okay? Like, don't do it. It's not worth it. And honestly, I would rather be alone than pretend to like somebody else, or pretend to kind of, or try to even build relationships with people that don't really give a shit about you at the end of the day. Like, there's just no point in that. So creating these boundaries is so important. Again, like having to navigate all that and you're like who I am, identity, like it was a really hard place while everybody was trying to figure out and kind of enjoying who they are. As a child, I didn't have to, because while everybody was at school trying to like hang out with friends, having sleepovers, trying to like love themselves, doing extracurricular activities, I was literally being an adult. Like an adult, like trying to survive, like trying to figure out what I'm gonna eat, where I'm gonna sleep, like all these things. Like, and I know that I'm not gonna play victim and all that, but it does affect me because now that I'm 30, I'm like, wow, I missed out on so much, right? Opportunities for growth. And so it's crazy to think that I've also been kind of stopping myself from growing because of the adversities. It weighed me down and it never really got better until I got better, until I refocused my energy and really realized why I wasn't growing, okay? Why I wasn't moving forward, because I was letting the past play a huge part in my present. That was literally pretty much it until I really realized to really sit down and look at myself and what I really wanted and kind of dissect everything from my life. I got a lot of answers doing that, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without being sober, honestly. But these are where the boundaries come from. These are where the standards and kind of the expectations for other people in my relationships come from because of the past. And I've kind of made that decision for myself to not only change, you know the people around me, but change how people see me and change how people treat me. You know and I get to create these boundaries for myself, and you do too. And it's about just following through with that and really just accepting where you are and where you come from, and kind of always working towards what you want and what you see yourself as. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters what your past is, but what matters is what you do with the past and how you move forward going forward. That's what matters at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, you're the only person that has control of anything that you do and anything that you see in your life. And that's what I've really learned. Instead of wasting and trying to find validation in other people and external things from outside, all this noise and all this chaos, girl, look inside yourself and really look for the things that you're looking for in other people in yourself. And like that's my biggest advice. And it's hard when you don't have a supportive system. So that's another thing too, is like find your support. Okay, listen to this podcast. If you're feeling down and stuff, like just know like you're not alone. There's people out there that do love you and really care about you. Okay, just don't forget about those people because they're the ones that are going to help you and guide you and kind of get you through these hard times. Because with me, I was so distracted of trying to build new relationships when these people that I was trying to build relationships with really didn't care about who I was, really didn't care who I wanted to be, or what I was. Like they did not see me for face value, okay? And it took a strain on me because I wasn't being seen. I felt like did not being I was not being heard. And so it really takes effect on you, on your mental health. So it's really important, okay? It's so important to find people that can hear you, even just to listen, okay? And find the support because there is people out there. And if you're like me that have a far in between people that you can connect with, I take therapy. Like I reach out and go get therapy, girl. And I think it's really important to have these connections to help you kind of go through these, these life adversities, because it's not easy to do it alone a lot of the time. But yes, finding your community is like key to success, okay? And this is not a community where you literally have to tell your whole life to. It's literally just to connect and kind of just bounce off your ideas, bounce off your thoughts to other people and other things. And even just that. Again, it's like connecting, not only with yourself but like with other people. It's really important to have these human connections because it's a way for us to be seen and to be heard. But your mental health is absolutely like number one, and it's my number one thing. I always have to be sure that my mental health and my well being is like a priority. And if there is people and if there is someone affecting that in a negative connotation or triggering me in some way, like I tend to shut off and kind of walk away from it. But I'm not saying to do that, but really to evaluate that relationship and really be mindful about the other person, because it's not always people. You're not going to please everybody. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to please everybody, and everybody's never going to please you. So you have to kind of evaluate where you stand and where you are in the situation, and how what position you play in their life and vice versa. And that kind of puts things into perspective and reality without you trying or to trying to connect with a person that doesn't even care and value you. Okay, and so really look and try to see other perspectives and other views of, of things, of situations, and other people's feelings. It's really important to kind of see that and be open. Okay, being very, very open. But I just try to navigate it with the best intentions possible each day. But just know that you need the support, and if you ever need anything or ever is feeling, this feeling of needing somebody to talk to, please reach out. Okay, pop off, say hello. Okay, because I'm here. And this is just like a reminder. I want to be always that reminder and this advocate for mental health, and always sharing my story, because and I know it can be so hard. Life can be so hard sometimes, especially when you don't have people around you to support you. And I understand that. I promise you, I understand that. But I always just want to be this, you know this person to always be an advocate for those people that aren't heard, that aren't seen, or don't feel loved. And I always want to be that person, and I always continuously want to be a representative of that and always be there for you. But anyway, I want to end it on a good note, you guys. But if you guys made it this far, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode. I don't know if you got anything out of it, but I just wanted to come on here and just always be an advocate and be a reminder to you and your mental health, because you are important and you are loved. And if you haven't already, follow me, subscribe, hit that thumbs up if you like this video, if you're watching this on YouTube. But yeah, thank you guys so much again, and I will see you on the next one.